there seems to be no end in sight for controversial appointments for the Sector Education and Training Authority board administrators. The DA has written to Higher Education Minister Buti Manamela to reconsider some of the new appointments, describing some as unfit and implicated in corruption. DA's national spokesperson and portfolio committee member on higher education, Karabo Khakhau, joins us in studio now. Karabo, good evening to you. Thank you so much for coming into studio. Before we actually get into the issue around SETAs and the Department of Higher Education, I do want to start with just the latest updates on the 3 DA members who were in that incident in Philippi yesterday. We know that Lisa Schikkeling, we understand, quite hurt.
Hello, Usnaledi. Good evening. Thank you so much for having me, and good evening to your viewers. What happened to Lisa, Ian, and Nicholas is sad. It's very painful. But what's most painful is the fact that they are not an isolated case, that there's nothing new about their experience, that these are the experiences of many South Africans across the country as far as crime is concerned, more so in crime hotspots like Philippi. And this is why the DA has been calling for the devolution of policing powers for as long as we have, to say, give the provincial government more muscle to deploy extra boots in the ground to make sure that we manage the levels of crime that we have there. Yes, in the absence of a provincial competence of SAPS, we have taken it upon ourselves to employ LEAP officers with the province and the city of Cape Town, which has helped a bit because we have seen shifts in crime statistics. But the problem is still there. We're not done with it altogether. And so I think this is a perfect opportunity for the president to also to look back and say, the drama we are seeing today, we're seeing because these are MPs. There's more that happens behind the screen with ordinary cases of people even who live inside Philippi themselves, people who have family, who have friends, people who go to church, who have community projects that they have to, that are scared to go kahara Philippi because kahara Philippi, right? And so this is an opportunity for us to reflect on the structuring of our policing system. You know what, on the one hand, I keep saying, when looking at this case, you have an issue of crime. We can't condone it. It is wrong. We can't have cases, we can't have on an ordinary day people thinking it makes sense to just attack people for just roaming the streets. People are supposed to be safe in South Africa. That's the one thing. On the other hand, you have the issue of youth unemployment, of substance abuse, and the levels of poverty that we experience in areas such as Philippi that inflate essentially the situation of crime. You find the young boys who are impacted.
Yeah, 16 and 18, incredibly young.
You know, and you find most of them are doing what they're doing because they have nothing else to do. Not only probably the education system failed them, the economic balance of the country has failed them as far as making sure that they're able to get an opportunity to compete fairly for success. That conversation is still lagging. So while we're dealing with the policing matter, on the other hand, it's very important for us as a country to have an honest reflection, and not just a reflection, but to have a proper policy strategy implemented to deal with
Yeah, but just quickly, Lisa Schikkeling, is she recovering well?
Yes, the status that I have right now is that they're all alive.
Okay.
And that they are well, that obviously they were hurt in varying ways. Mara will get statuses as it goes. Now, what is the status?
All right. Well, let's get into the issue that brings us here. It hasn't been long that we have seen Buti Manamela becoming Minister of Higher Education, the removal of Nobuhle Nkabani, of course, having so much to do with what goes on in the appointment process of who heads up our SETAs. The Democratic Alliance raising an issue and saying, well, we've written to Buti Manamela as well and said, we need to look at the list that you've given us on the administrators that you've, set up to help turn SETAs around. Talk to us about what you're bringing to the fore.
So SETAs are a problem. We know this. OUTA has shown us that with the investigations, how much corruption exists there, how much mismanagement of funds exist. We have whistleblowers that have been ejected from the SETA services, SETA's space altogether because of corruption, fraud, and mismanagement. We have the Auditor General herself having made it clear that the order of financial business, as far as leadership, as far as expenditure, and the whole organogram of the system does not work. So we know that, and we know that these three seaters that Manamela has pointed out do need to be placed under administration. So that's not the issue. The issue we have here is that you can't have seaters that are struggling with corruption and you can't have that situation, and then you take administrators who are implicated in corruption, fraud, and mismanagement of funds themselves. Number one, you have Opangwane, who's a former municipal manager of the Mfuleni local municipality. He's implicated in a forensic report that details how there was 872 million rands worth of taxpayers' monies that was mismanaged. Him alongside 12 other officials within that municipality. The forensic report details very clearly how there was a manipulation of contracts that are awarded with kickbacks to some of these officials. It also details very clearly that Nkwane himself there were contracts that were supposed to be severed or terminated by him that were extended without logic there. So he's certainly not your guy as an administrator. It's not fit for purpose there. Number two, you have Lehlohonolo Masora. Tata Masora is a former MEC of the Limpopo provincial government. He's also a former deputy speaker of the Limpopo provincial legislature. But he's also CEO during his tenure as the CEO of the Musina Makado Special Economic Zone. There was a communications contract that zone had that also ended up having a forensic report by Moore that says 4.4 million rands was shadily handled. How so? Him with another colleague, backdated the dates of the contract. So work was supposed to commence and commenced in June, and they backdated to say no, work started in January, just so to justify how some of the funds that they were supposed to pay were paid or were not paid. That's a shady case altogether. You can't have that man at the helm of administrating over a collapsing SETA space. The third person that we have here is Ndate Zukile Mbalo. Ndate Zukile Mbalo is currently serving as the DDG of Skills Development in the Department of Higher Education. He has been the Deputy Director General in the space for the last 8 years, since 2017. All 21 seaters in this country have been accounting to that man for the last 8 years. So the issues that Outers has raised, the issues that the Auditor General have raised, the issues that whistleblowers have raised as far as the order of house and maladministration there, they've been happening right under his nose. The Auditor General still says that we don't have consequence management strategies in place to make sure that there is a compliance with supply chain management prescripts, to make sure that contracts are awarded in a regular manner, to make sure that expenditure is done in a regular and fruitful way. So he's certainly not your guy, because if he failed in the last 8 years to administer proper leadership, where is he suddenly going to suck up the miraculous energy to preside over a SETA as an administrator?
I mean, I'd be keen to hear the minister's response to what you've said and why these decisions were made. But it's certainly obvious that after the Ngabane saga, that there's going to be massive attention on what happens inside our SETAs. What is it that the Democratic Alliance then has done? You've written to Minister Manamela. What do you want to see him do, lest he ends up in a sticky situation as we saw Ngabane find herself in, right? What does he do? And really, what is it that needs to be done so that we do have confidence in the leadership that is set up for our training authorities?
So one, the letter that I, on behalf of the DA, wrote to Manamela last night asks that he withdraws these appointments and reconsiders them. South Africa is not short of professional public servants who can serve as administrators. It is unfortunate that for the ANC and the SACP, they think the only people that are available in the pool of public servants are recycled ANC cadres who are implicated in corruption. So it's a system of you mess up here, let the storm subside a bit, we're going to redeploy you somewhere else. That's how the system of cadre deployment in the ANC and the SACP has worked, and that is the problem. So if indeed we are going to see an honest and clean government accountable to the people of the Republic of South Africa, who are pretty much our bosses, then we need to free ourselves from the shackles of cadre deployment, which is the system of the ANC and the SACP. So that's one thing. And I wrote last night, he hasn't written back to me yet right now. I haven't read any email from him. But That's the call. And this is the call that, it's not I, Karabo Khakhau, or the DA alone making this call. You would have seen across social media that South Africans themselves are appalled by this decision. We had Nobuhle Nkabane, who we were fighting vehemently for wanting to appoint ANC recycled cadres as chairpersons of SETA boards. We fought against that, but she took it a step further to lie about the process altogether. And that's why we were able to get rid of her out of office, and we fought so hard to get the president's attention to make sure that we don't have the caliber of Nkabane sitting there. Yeah. So it's certainly, Buti Manamela is not special. There's nothing newer about him as a minister that we did not condone Nkabane, that we should condone Gaye.
I want to get back to Nkabane later, because obviously the Democratic Alliance going all the way to pursue criminal charges. But let's just focus on Manamela for now. The appointments that we're talking about of these administrators that you yourself as the DA have taken issue with, for me this is what really stands out, is we're talking about the services SETA, the local government SETA, the construction SETA, incredibly important institutions that we're talking about.
They are. And like the others in the system, there's 21 of them. We have over 60% of young people in this country sitting at home unable to put food on the table for themselves and their families. Others have lost the dreams of independence. Others are now subjected to substance abuse, to acts of criminality like we see in Philippi. And that is their lives altogether. Some are educated, some are not. They've fallen off the cracks. SETAs are supposed to be that essential bridging, to build that essential gap that exists between those who have opportunities and are successful and those who don't. And we haven't seen that happening in the past years. I can tell you where I come from, Belcom. Some of the people, young people, are only learning about what a SETA is for the first time now with the scandal Nkabane le Manamela. All along, young people don't know what SETAs are. And those who have interfaced with SETAs have their certificates still lagging behind. SETAs is unable to even account to the department itself on who have they trained, how do they justify how some of the money has been used, what impact have we been able to see in society. So that's one thing. But then also with the SETAs, the LG SETA, the local government SETA, the services SETA, and the construction SETA, they've been in the news for a whole lot of shady vibes on payments of salaries, on money being mismanaged, millions of rands altogether, right? And so this is an indication of a deep problem in the system, and a deep-rooted problem in the system. Yeah. And the only way to solve it is certainly by making sure that we have honest public service professionals, not ANC and SACP cadres, certainly not Ongwane, certainly not Masocha, certainly not Mbalo.
All right, so we'll be following, how you pursue this issue with the current higher education minister, but we take a couple steps back. I mean, it was, what, the 21st of July when we saw the president removing Dr. Nobuhle Nkabane. But at the beginning of that month, the Democratic Alliance heading to the police station and laying criminal charges against Nkabane. Is that something that you're still going to pursue? 100%.
The Hawks are still investigating. It is very important for the people of this country to understand that in the Democratic Alliance, they have allies and they have public representatives that are willing to fight until the end to make sure that they are well represented, that the public.
But she's been removed.
Yeah, no, but it doesn't end there, Osnaleti. Just because you were removed, it doesn't mean the mess you left behind, we suddenly forget about it. The bottom line is you lied to Parliament, committed fraud is our view, and committed a statutory offence under Section 27 of the Powers, Privileges and Immunities of Parliament and Provincial Legislatures Act 4 of 2004. So just because you're no longer in the executive and sitting as an ordinary member like Karabo Khakhau, it doesn't mean you are now absolved of the responsibility of upholding your code, your oath of office. So that's the point. And the message we want to make clear here to the people of this country and everybody else who has been spitting on the graves of the forefathers of this democracy is that we're not going to sit back as the Democratic Alliance and watch this country burn because there are people who are disrespectful enough to the gains of this democracy, to want to loot state coffers, to want to act in an unethical way in office, and to disregard the hopes and aspirations of the people of this country. That is not something we will sit back and watch happen, and that's why we are fighting. So the Hawks are investigating, and Dipopos Saldans.
Okay, we'll be watching. We'll be watching all of that play out. Karabo Khakhau, of course, is national spokesperson there for the Democratic Alliance. Thank you so much for your time.